Take a breath, my darlings. Be at peace. I think yellow is probably one of the colors that strikes me most as being in the presence of the divine. You know, they always, when they put halos in the artwork over people as sacred, they're usually yellow, right? When we think of that inner flame, we feel like there's that golden light within us. And today, as we talk about this color of yellow, and really more about what it represents, I'm just going to invite you to keep open and receptive to what Spirit has for you. Just imagine that that presence of golden light is filling your heart and your mind with divine ideas about how this message applies specifically to you, what Spirit is calling you into. We talked for the last couple of weeks in this message series about the kingdom of heaven being present within us, the first words from Jesus, that the kingdom of heaven is at hand and all around us. And as we look at that today, I'm going to ask you to check in and see, have I felt the kingdom of heaven in me lately? And what does that feel like for me? Is there anything I need to do to make that happen, to experience that presence of the kingdom in me? What is it? What is it? So as we look at these spiritual energy centers within us, the Hindus would refer to them as chakras. We're going to look at the one today that helps us understand more deeply who we are, our I am presence. The chakras that we have looked at so far were the root chakra and the sacral chakra that had to do with our sense of security, a foundation, a safeness in life, a provision for all that we need. And the sacral chakra was about I feel and therefore I create. And there's I don't want to use the word logic, there's a wisdom in how these are laid out in us. That these spiritual centers are building on each other. And so today when we talk about this third chakra, just recognize it as something that, first of all, we've been referring to Deepak Chopra's definition up here on the screen, that chakras are the junction points between the consciousness of spirit and our biology. So our bodies and spirit are one. And we can experience what the spiritual consciousness of God has for us, not only in our bodies, but in our minds, in our emotions, in our activities. And when we look at the third chakra, it's called the solar plexus, because it's right here in the center where we might refer to that regularly in our lives. The solar plexus is just above the navel. As you have heard us say, it relates to the color yellow. It responds to the E note on the musical scale. And it also relates to that element of fire. Think of the inner flame of divine light within us. Physically, when our chakra is open, meaning we have access to the divine within us, we're aligned with spirit, it deals with the physical areas of our stomach, the waist area, our upper intestine, the liver, the pancreas, the gallbladder, things that have to do with our digestion and metabolism. And so when that chakra is blocked, in other words, we're not consciously in alignment with spirit, then it might show up as a physical imbalance, digestion problems, or maybe some kind of eating disorder. It might have something to do with ulcers or diabetes or heartburn. And that tends to follow what's going on in consciousness. So that's where we're going to give our attention today, is looking at this chakra in consciousness, our thoughts, our beliefs, our behaviors, and how they either relate or not with the divine idea of this sacral or solar plexus chakra. So I'm going to start with a couple ideas that I think relates to this strongly. And what is the I am of us and the I do From how we see ourselves, that's how we behave. When I talk about I am, we're talking about how we, let's work with the nature of our self-esteem. High or low? Our I am is meant to be expressing fully and freely as I'm an expression of the divine. Therefore, I'm worthy, I'm of value, I have the ability to be confident and courageous, I'm capable, and I'm powerful. Just say that out loud with me. I'm powerful. Do you agree with that? Listen to your inner being. Do you agree with that? On some days, maybe not other days. But ideally, we're meant to stand in that inner power of the Christ within us, which is basically just God expressing uniquely as each one of you and me. And the I do that follows the I am is the ability to make decisions and then act on them, to be able to see things through, to not give up, to be motivated. And I know that there's plenty of things going on in our lives that can interfere with that. It's very easy for us to want to step away. But when we are in balance in our solar plexus, this is when we start to show up as someone who makes plans and sees them into reality. You know the difference between that and saying, yes, I'll do that, and then giving up on it or forgetting about it or finding something else you'd rather do. But a balanced solar plexus chakra is what allows us to take on challenges, to try new things. When it comes time to make decisions, the process happens easily for us. And we're working with a clear mind. We know where we're going. It's easy for us to see the path, or at least the next few steps. And we don't just stay stuck in our comfort zone. We actually are looking for new ways to grow. We're more proactive rather than reactive to what's going on around us. So when that solar plexus is blocked, we're going to show up as powerless, feeling powerless. In truth, you're never powerless, but we feel powerless. We are unmotivated. We can't make a decision to save our life, or we're afraid to make decisions. We might have a lot of ideas flowing in, but we never can quite see how to bring them to pass. Or we just don't have enough motivation to do that. When we're blocked in this area, it's about making ourselves small, kind of hiding from the world, afraid to say what's on our mind, to speak our truth. It's about difficulty setting boundaries when we need to. And we even look at time as an enemy, where we get to a certain age and we decide it's too late now, you've done all you can, there's no use trying. No use trying to do something new or grow beyond what you are already. Act your age. When you hit retirement age, act your age. You shouldn't be doing things like that. Or we're stuck in the glory days. I know that each one of you probably has at least one glory day from your past that you tend to drift back to in consciousness and want to just live there. But what that presents is a life that is stuck. And the Christ in us, the higher self, the God mind, is never gone. It's always infinite. It always wants to create and grow. But if this area of us, this sacral, I keep getting sacral and solar plexus, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the solar plexus in us tends to want to just close up and do what's easy. Can you relate to that? Anybody? Okay. So the common emotions that we experience when we're there is doubt that should we take action, it won't work. It's a feeling of mistrust. It's a feeling of insecurity or victim. It's a timidness about us. It's maybe a laziness, maybe a sense of confusion. We can't really think straight about our life. It's hard to make those decisions. So I'm going to look at some spiritual principles with you today that will help us clear the way for the highest part of ourself to start expressing again. And one of the reasons, as I mentioned, that we wanted to light a candle today is put inside that flame the idea of stepping forward, of continuing to make choices and follow through on them. no matter what it's about, if it's something that your heart is continually pressing on you to do, then this is your opportunity to take that seriously and allow some divine principles to help you through this process. There's one especially that we want to talk about today that's happening all the time, but how it's happening depends on whether your solar plexus is open or not. And that is the idea of divine order, which we think of as a law, the law of attraction, but we also think of it as one of our 12 spiritual powers. We have the power to create through this divine law. And the basic steps are mind, idea, expression. You've probably heard me say that a few thousand times. So how about if mind, idea, expression represents for us when this solar plexus is open? It represents our ability, our thinking ability to become facts, to become manifest, tangible. So thoughts held in mind produce in kind. Another thing that we say as a rhyme to remind us of how this law works. But the variable about how it works is important, and that is how you're thinking. What is the health of my solar plexus? Am I allowing the divine to guide me into new decisions and new actions? So this is where we want to start is, where am I on the scale of mind, idea, expression? Ideally, mind represents your state of being. The I am that we talked about with the solar plexus is your state of consciousness. Who are you? How do you see yourself? The ideal for this is, I am one with God. I am a spiritual being. I am eternal. I am infinite. I am capable. I am filled with power. I am confident. I'm courageous. And I'm moving forward. That's a sense of, this is who I am. So when you wake up in the morning, there's no hesitancy about who you are or what people will think of you. There's just a knowing that all is well. I am being the truth of who I am. And from that state of mind, that will have an influence on the ideas that are generated within you. If you're in alignment with how the divine mind sees you, then you're also in alignment with divine ideas about what kind of action to take. So it's ideas that instead of sickness, we focus on life. Instead of conflict, we're focused and get divine ideas about how to be in harmony with one another. We draw to us ideas about abundance flowing in our life. Ideas pop in about the next step that we should take that's for our highest good. So it's a feeling of love, it's an idea of joy, it's a pathway to peace. All of these ideas are coming to us when we're in that state of consciousness that I am one with God, and there's nothing to fear. This one power is working for my good. When you're at that level of consciousness and you're drawing in divine ideas, then what manifests in our life reflects that. We end up experiencing more health in our body, more harmony in our relationships. We end up experiencing the flow of God's abundance so that as we need, it shows up. And we're also very capable of not only receiving these ideas, but taking action towards them, making decisions and seeing things through for the highest good. That's the ideal of our solar plexus, open and expressing freely as it's intended to. And we've had those days where that solar plexus is blocked. And you probably know that when you don't even want to get out of bed. And it's because as you're laying in bed, you're working from a mind that's associated with the ego. And the ego is always judging, always seeing yourself from a limited perspective. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't, says the ego. So this mind of the ego, when we're living from that point of consciousness, we feel timid about life. We don't trust ourselves. We don't expect good things in our life. We don't see our value. We're unworthy. And from that place, we draw ideas that support that. So instead of I can take action and move forward, it's if I take action, I will fail. There's an idea that will come to us that will say, the thing that I tried before and failed at will only happen again. or I did that before and look how it resulted. So that heavier point of view about who I am will start to feed us ideas that are trying to protect us, but basically they're holding us back in this place of stuckness. And so what's the expression of those ideas? A whole lot of nothing. We're not moving forward. We keep repeating the past. We keep making the same mistakes over and over again because we've predicted it. That's what it's like to have a stuck solar plexus where spirit is unable to get through and tell you all the things that are possible. Instead, it's limited. I'm limited. There's not enough and I'm not enough. So, which place do we want to live? Which mind do we want to start in? From the higher mind or the lower mind? So that we can attract the ideas that are meant to guide us. Ellen Davenport has written our kind of our primer for Unity's 5 basic principles, the 5 principles. And the 5th principle actually is applying to this solar plexus because it's focused on not just knowing what all these truths are, but applying them in our lives, taking action on them. So she writes in the book, life is consciousness first, and then we take action as we are inspired. Do you see how I just explained that? That whatever consciousness of being that we start from, it turns out that the action we take comes from whatever information, inspiration, or lack of that comes in. What's the opposite of inspiration? Anybody got a word for that? Desperation, yeah. Ideas that are, if they're not inspiring, these ideas are limiting, let's just say that. Limiting thoughts that are coming in. So you see the importance of your state of I am, because it has an effect on what we do. And so we want to start from a consciousness of what I do reflects who I am. What I do reflects who I am. Let's get that into our spirit, into our consciousness. What I do reflects who I am. Say that with me. What I do reflects who I am. Just take a minute to kind of step back from yourself right now and look at this. Is this true for you? What I do is a reflection of who I am. Who I am is a consciousness of how I see myself. So if we don't like what we see that we're doing, then we need to back up a step and move into changing who we see ourselves as. A consciousness of I am worthy. A consciousness of I'm capable. When you start from that, then you're able to make decisions with ease. You're able to choose things that are going to continue to grow you. You're going to stand in your power and produce things that raise you up, achieve your goals, and keep you moving forward. If you start from that consciousness of not enough, then what follows is I don't trust myself to see this through, and therefore I won't take a risk. I won't take action. I won't even make a decision. And we lack ambition because we've decided we're going to fail before we ever start. Those are our 2 options. So how about if we engage our divine order with our power of will? Out of our 12 spiritual powers, this is probably one of our most important. And it's one that actually our ego can override, because the number 1 rule in the universe is free will, and nothing and no one can tell you what to do. Even if things come to you that you didn't want, you still cannot be told how to respond. You are in charge of that. That's free will. Now, it can be positive or negative, and ego will be the one that will choose the negative. Ego's will looks like willful, kind of like a child. It's that part of ourself that wants our way and demands it, even though it may not be good for ourselves or someone else. It'll probably be something that is self-preservation focused. Or it's weak-willed, which means we're kind of wishy-washy about making choices. We become a Stepford wife, if you're old enough to know what that is. Does anybody? Yeah. Where you have no mind of your own and you just let other people tell you what to do. Or you're strong-willed, and not only do you want to control your life, but you want to be stubborn against others' ideas, and you want to take charge. And that means that the ideas that come to us in that stage will manifest in ways that keep us stuck, that keep us making excuses, or we may not make any decisions or actions forward. We're just sitting back, letting go of our responsibilities. Jesus talked about how important it is to know the truth of mind, idea, expression, to know the truth of who you are as the Christ expressing, and then to act on it. So from Matthew chapter 7:13, he says, "Enter through the narrow gate. For the gate is wide and the road is easy that leads to destruction, and there are many who take it. For the gate is narrow and the road is hard that leads to life, and there are few who find it." It's hard for the ego, but when we allow ourselves to align with Spirit, decision-making becomes easier. And our true power of divine will is the power we're meant to be using as that which decides for itself. It kind of basically says, you are the CEO of your life. You're the executive, and you are here to execute your orders, basically, from that higher level of beingness. So you are the executor of your life, which means when this is operating as it should, you're choosing and you're doing. You're choosing what to do from the highest point of view. You're making decisions from that direction. You're setting intentions in order to rise above. And that state or that statement of "I will" become two words that empower you to do good, to be your higher self. I will. How many times do you get up in the morning and say that? I will take a step in the right direction, fill in the blank of whatever that is for you. Or do you say more like, I wonder, or I doubt, or it probably won't? I'm just going to challenge you this week to find opportunities to start your sentence with, I will. When it comes down to a step to take, I will. Set an intention and make it come to pass. And that takes us to part of our divine will of commitment, that once we set an intention or make a promise, that we follow through on it. We take responsibility for it. We stay the course for whatever idea we've set. And, you know, we see that happen a lot on January 1st when we're making that New Year's resolution. And how long does it last? You know, maybe 3 weeks, I think, is kind of the average before you forget about it, or it's not as easy as you thought. So when we commit, it means that you have committed to being someplace on time. So when bed calls, your divine will says, I will get up. When you're promising to do something or be somewhere and you get close to that date and, oh, look, something funner has come up on the calendar. I'm going to just, toddle off over in this direction. No, your divine will point you in the direction that you committed to initially. Is this ringing any bells for anyone? When we have committed to be responsible for something in our life and then something more fun or easier shows up, less threatening shows up, less demanding, we tend to want to go that way, but our divine will gets us up and heads us off into the direction that we've committed to. And ultimately, an unusual way to think of using our divine will is willingness. Rather than willfulness, willingness. And a lot of times this is a good way to think of it when you're not really sure, you haven't been able to tap into what your higher will is pointing you towards. So instead, you're willing to listen for inner guidance, for higher guidance. You might even be willing to listen to what someone else needs or suggests, because Spirit can work through all of us. So there's a chance here that Spirit has something for you that you haven't opened a way to yet, but become willing to hear what Spirit has to say, which means it's just kind of lowering your resistance and opening up to possibilities, opening up to infinite potential. So let's think about how to use this divine will from a place of free will, and starting from the premise of This is my choice. I don't have to do anything else that someone else thinks I should do. I'm going to follow my free will, but I'm going to follow it with that state of willingness and a higher point of view so that the decisions can be made easily and clearly, and I know where I'm going. And one of the ways that we do that is up here on the screen, we start with the end in mind. We start with the end in mind. I was watching a movie a while back about a bunch of authors, and one of them, what do they call that when they get blocked? Do they just call it blocked? I'm blocked. Okay, writer's block, writer's block. Okay, so somebody was going through writer's block, and another author said, "What's your title?" He said, "You don't know where you're going with your book until you have a title." And that's true for our lives, right? That we need to sit and get clear on what we want. Let Spirit speak clearly to us what is, what's calling to us from a higher point of view. And then let the end be the guide to us. Start with the end in mind, and then the decisions that you make and the actions that you take are all heading in that direction. You don't think I have to go through that every week when I'm working on messages? It's a challenge, let me tell you. But it always goes so much more smoothly when I start with the end in mind. Kitty, what is your main point today? What's a single small thing, the big idea that you can speak aloud that they can remember? It's about I am and I do. What I am, how I see myself, what my state of consciousness is, influences or reflects back in what I do. So when we start with who I am, and we know that in our heart, then it's going to be easier to take steps and do what helps to fulfill that higher part of ourself. Okay, so start with the end in mind, and secondly, start using the word I choose to instead of I have to. I was a stubborn kid. I had a will, let me tell you. I probably still do, and you've probably seen it, and you're just sitting back there laughing at me right now. So my stubbornness as a child was wanting to do everything my way, or not wanting to be told how to do it. Not wanting to be told how to do it. But I've discovered when I can say, I'm choosing to do this, it's easier. There's less resistance in my ego than if I were to say, I have to do this. And just a simple example is, I can either say, I'm choosing to walk the dog now, versus I have to walk the dog now. I have to sounds like a drudge, it sounds like a command, a responsibility that you'll never get out of. But if you say, I choose to, it makes you wonder, why did I choose that? And then you go back to why you chose. Because I love my dog. I want my dog to have exercise. I want to make sure that he's healthy. And I'm excited to have him in my life. So doesn't that make it more light to be able to fulfill that, to take action based on that decision that you made to bring that dog in your life? Okay, I'll own that. So I'm just thinking, the reason I love dogs, and I had housemates that had dogs, and that's the best way to do it, because they're the ones that have to get up early and feed them and take them out. But you get all the fun of having them around. So when they moved, my question was, do I want to get a dog? No. Why don't you want to get a dog? Because I don't want to have to get up at 4:30 when the sun changes times and they're still on that clock and blah, blah, blah. I had all kinds of reasons about why I didn't want to do that. So I just waited out. I decided I would rather spend my time, being able to be free to go here and there. That's okay. You're making a decision based on who you are and how you want to live your life. It wasn't selfish. What would have been selfish is if I had gotten the dog and then I totally ignore the dog. So anyway, that's my story. Enough about that. Hopefully that made a little bit of sense to you. I choose to. I choose not to. I choose not to have a dog. Okay, thirdly, be sensitive to what your feelings are telling you when it comes to how fast you're moving on this decision and taking action. Follow the pace that feels right to you. Follow the choices that feel right to you. Don't force them. Remember last week, our focus was on I feel and therefore I create, and how it was important to be sensitive to our feelings. Here too, just take that second chakra and bring it up here with your third chakra and remind yourself, is this the choice that feels right to me? And am I taking it at a pace to make it happen that feels right to me? Because Spirit is still trying to guide us through our feelings. So if we're starting to feel, and here's the tricky part, knowing the difference between ego's feelings and your higher self. Ego's feelings will be selfishly motivated. Higher self will be motivated from a place of peace. So it's not that you're, slow down, I'm scared to death. That's not it. It's slow down so that I can listen more clearly to what the next step is. Or slow down because what is going to come through here is not ready yet. That's the kind of information that Spirit will give us with just a little check in our spirit as we're moving forward. And allow that to kind of boost your mood. Do it from a place of comfort and ease versus, again, I have to do it this way. Fourth, let's talk about choosing actions that actually produce results. Have you ever seen a person who's really, really busy, but they're not really accomplishing anything? They're kind of frantic. They can't even sit still and be quiet in conversation or in a room with other people. You know, for some reason, they just have to keep moving. That's not the kind of action we want from this chakra. We want to be able to be present to what's happening in the moment so that whatever it is we decide and whatever action we take is one that will bring a result around that we put on the title of our book. Does that make sense? Put it on the title of your book, whatever that is. What's your next big step in life, your next big change in life that you lit a candle for? Make sure that whatever you're doing is going to result in that. Because a lot of times those actions that we take are avoidance issues. I'm too busy to work on that because I've got to check out the next issue of my show on Netflix. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, and then ultimately, what we want to do is seek God's will. And depending on how you were raised, if you had a traditional religious upbringing, you might have been taught that anything that happens is God's will and there's no control. But that's not the kind of will we're talking about when we talk seek God's will. It begins by knowing that God's will for you is good. Always, always, always good. And when you go back to the I am presence that you are, and remember that you are an expression of the divine, then your will is God will, and God will is your will. And whatever it is, it's good. So we don't have to worry about God trying to teach you something. It's God's will that you learn this lesson through pain or deprivation. God's will is always focused on your highest and best. And when you think, well, maybe what I think my highest and best is different than from what God thinks, just remind yourself, wait a minute, my highest self is me, and that higher self is God. So there's only one of us here, remember, only one presence, and it knows why I came here and what's good for me. So yes, the ego may try and get in there and change your mind about that, but just keep trusting. God's will for me is good. So what is it? How do I seek it? Let's look up here on the screen to find out what that will of God is. First of all, can you remember when Jesus taught us to pray, he said, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Anybody heard that before? Okay. So start with that premise that God's will is good will, and that it's God's good pleasure to give you the kingdom, which means it's open to you. All possibilities are open to you and available to you all the time. See it that way, that God's will is good and it's available to you all the time. So instead of fighting against what the world is offering or trying to deprive you of, open with the idea, as we're seeking God's will, to know that it's good and it's available to me all the time. I believe that God's will is for us to know truth. Know the truth that there's only one presence and I'm an expression of the divine. Start from that premise, and everything else, Jesus said, when you seek first that kingdom, everything else will get taken care of by itself. So know who you are, one presence and one power. Know that it's that your oneness is one with God. Know that we receive when we open up to receive. You know that statement that Jesus said, ask and it's given, seek and you'll find, knock and the door shall be open to you? That is an invitation to expect your higher good to be available to you. But you have not because you ask not. So keep your mind open to what is waiting for you, and now you need to turn in that direction and set your intention towards that. And ultimately, be willing to learn, moment by moment, what is the highest way and will of God for me. Keep checking back with your feelings. What is God's will? Let's find out. Let's seek, let's listen, let's ask, let's knock, and trust that the answer's always waiting for us. One of my favorite scriptures in the entire Bible is from Job 22, up here on the screen. Agree with God and be at peace. In this way, good will come to you. Agree with God and be at peace. In this way, good will come to you. So agree with God is basically just letting your thoughts first and primarily be what God is in and as you. So ask Julie to, first of all, did everybody get a little slip of paper when you came in today, yellow piece of paper? If you did not, raise your hand and Julie's going to come around with that box. Come on, Julie. Okay, up front, here's one. Over here on this side. And what we're going to do is, where is the microphone that you want us to use? What Mary Beth has? Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to start on this side of the room, and every single one of you is going to be invited to say whatever's on your strip of paper out loud into the microphone. So I want you to notice, the microphone should be down here. When you read yours, hold it up here. If today you say, it's not my will to read this out loud, we're going to cut you some slack. So when that microphone comes to you, you just pass it on to the next person, okay? So who else needs one? Anyone else need one? Raise your hands. Okay, good. Julie, if you'll bring the rest up to me. And then Mary Beth, if you, will you just make sure that it gets to everybody?
Sure.
So it's kind of crazy how we're sitting, so we'll just do that. Thank you. I'll take it. And here's the other thing. It's going to be very tempting to sit there and think, okay, I'm going to have to read this. I'm going to have to read this. I'm going to have to read this. And you're going to totally miss what everyone else is saying. So I want you to forget that you have a piece of paper in your hand. And I want you to know that what everyone else is reading in this room today is specifically for you to hear. This is truth. This is your infinite potential that we're talking about here. This is guidance for what your next step is to be. And we're all just helping each other know this truth, okay? So Mary Beth, I'm going to just hand it off down the rows and let people do the handing off themselves until you need to get them over a hurdle, okay? So we'll start with you.
Is it on? There we go. I set upon a course of action that supports my choice.
I do what my heart tells me to do.
I am the will of God in expression.
I am willing to see good come to everybody. I do what it takes to move forward toward my highest good.
I hone the power within me.
I am willing to live the best life that I know.
I am willing to will the will of God.
I do what courage would do.
I do the best I know how.
I am courageous.
My actions always push me forward in divine ways.
I am willing to stay attuned to the source of all good.
I choose to release what's holding me back.
I am CEO of my life, and I say act now.
I guide my free will with love and understanding.
I do what leads me to growth and expansion.
I am full of will and ambition to sculpt my reality.
I will live consciously and take action as guided by my higher self.
I stand in my inner power.
Confident in my divine potential, I am willing to do the will of God.
I'm willing to stretch beyond perceived limits.
I make good decisions in directing my life.
I am inspired now to do the will of Spirit within me.
I am willing and able to do the will of God.
I am confident in my ability to make wise decisions and act on them.
I do not know what happened to my slip.
So this is for you, my darling. I affirm my capacity to commit to a path ahead. That's yours.
How did you get it?
See me after. I'll set it aside just for you.
God's will for me is good.
I am willing to be purposeful, to know I am divine.
I am worthy of divine good and boldly walk in its direction.
I feel calm, confident, and powerful.
I am open to new ideas.
I choose only that which is for the highest good of all.
I feel motivated to pursue my purpose.
In the light of God, I faithfully follow the best I know.
I choose to make way for infinite possibilities.
I forgive myself for past mistakes and learn from them.
The only thing I really need to control is how I respond to situations.
I am ambitious and capable.
It's time to decide.
Out with bad habits, I am no longer stuck.
I stand in my personal power.
I do God's divine will with joy and enthusiasm.
I clear the path.
I am willing to act according to divine will.
I am courageous.
I can create positive change in my life.
I am free to make mistakes, improve, and make my life whatever I will.
Right there in front of you, Mary Beth. Lana, is that you? Did you get yours?
God's will is always goodwill, and I act on it with confidence.
I take control and take back my power now.
Did we hear from everyone? Raise your hand if we missed you. You guys have one up in the tech booth? Christina, why don't you speak it to me and I'll say it aloud? I choose to dream bigger than what I've known. Anyone else?
Yeah, we have one here. Could
Go
you
ahead.
read it for her?
Oh, yeah. I confidently do the divine will in this situation, and I'm going to put yours on this side of my chair. So come get it afterwards. Anyone else? Okay, so let's bring down the lights a little bit. And let's allow these ideas of truth to sink in where we may feel stronger and more capable. And we'll just allow this E note that's going to be playing underneath us clear out any blockages in our solar plexus. Let's go ahead with that. Christina. Take a deep breath. Christina, keep moving till you get to that. There you go. You're going to need to go back, Christina. Is it set on? Is it moving forward by itself? Okay. Well, either way, Mark, we'll let you get going on that E note. So I'm just going to let you open up, first of all, to the sound of that note. Feel that in your solar plexus right now, as if it's vibrating there. It's sending that vibration of spirit to that center. And as you feel that energy moving, imagine a flame at the inner heart of your solar plexus. And as this note merges with this vision of flame, the flame grows brighter within you. This beautiful color of golden yellow is beginning to spread throughout your body. One of the beautiful shades that spirit expresses as, one of the beautiful notes that spirit vibrates at. I am that light. I can achieve anything I set my mind to. Breathe in yellow. Feel that flame getting bigger. I'm willing to courageously decide what I will have, do, and be. Breathe more life into that flame and feel it growing within you. I am full of confidence and clarity. I see myself moving forward and finding the way. Breathe into that flame, more life, more light. confident God's will for me is good. And we see that vibrant light shining upward to our throat, into our mind, making things clear. I am powerful, and my actions show it. The cobwebs are moving out of my mind, and clarity, crystal clarity, is coming to light in my thoughts, in my ideas. I stay strong in spirit. As I live and breathe this divine yellow light from within, this flame moves down through my body, into my legs, into my feet as I walk forward as Spirit guides. I take responsibility for my life and choose the highest course of action. Feel that yellow flame as a golden light that fills your body with a sense of, I am the light, and I do what is mine to do. This is the truth of my being, and now I let it be. And so it is. Amen.